heading.
Chemicals that dance on the receptors between your neurons make your brain work. Substances enriched with chemicals similar acting to those endogenous hormones can overflow your meat computer, which will result in a so-called trip. The first person to ever trip did so over a stone and fell on the ground, which made his acolytes refer to him as stoned. But my personal relationship with recreational pharmacologists is rather reluctant due to my mindset about considering that the constant effort of enhancing the beauty of life makes it more ugly. On the other hand, scarcely experiencing non-euphoric states gives me a feeling similar to trying a roller coaster, which in the end led to my first encounter with N,N-dimethyltryptamine, or short TNT. My story begins in the womb of my mom, or even earlier, in which detail I would not like to indulge. A few years later, I heard this Irish-sounding comedian talk about his crazy trip that healed him from anxiety and panic and whatnot. Good for him. I didn't have anxiety since I overcame this panic disorder, but I knew a friend of mine did. What good friends do in this case is not talk about each other's problems, but go online and order a sample of this mysterious specimen of powdered wonders. In addition of a little bit of positive argumentation like, this will only last for 10 minutes or something, and bro, the body can literally produce it by itself. Without adding the detail of this being the case on the verge of death, the roller coaster was about to happen. Me having birthed this idea originally, of course, resulted in me taking the first try. We planned a small test dose followed by the classical 3 big hits. After feeling relatively normal and relaxed during the first trial, I felt empowered to face my demons. For those unfamiliar with DMT, it is worth noting that the initial phase to be remarkably similar across individuals. This is why I decided to keep the stage approximate. The process typically begins with an auditory hum, followed by a phase in which perception resembles a broken record, while the visual field dissolves into something comparable to cartoonish wet paint. By shutting your eyes, one is then promptly catapulted into a dreamlike domain at what feels like a high physical velocity. At the beginning, it felt like I was looking into different doors and seeing what is happening behind them while I was acting as the protagonist of each story. One of them actually made me re-experience my substance consumption, which happened a few minutes prior, but through the perspective of my good friend. I could feel how itchy his booty was, but I couldn't really scratch it because I felt like I was not allowed to touch another person's butt without consent, even though I was still in my own body. For the rest, my memory is just very vague. However, it was what followed that proved genuinely traumatic damages and seemed to be conspicuously absent from any prior warning I had received. I met what seemed to be like a mix of Buddhistic and Christian monks. It was 2 of them, which somehow never spoke but still made me understand everything they were thinking. Of course, they knew what I was thinking too for some unfair reason. And initially they were just looking at me skeptically, thinking I was stupid for being here such a short time and already thinking I was outsmarting them. Personally, I don't even recall forming thoughts into that direction, but I still understood and felt penitent. Then they tried to convince me that what I had seen should be regarded as reality after they had presumably noticed my doubts. They clarified that time does not matter here, which made it possible to bring another version of me here, which I then insisted on. I mean, yeah, prove it's reality, yeah, come on. They told me that from the place I came from, I would sadly never return in the future. They said that the place where I came from never ends, and that this meant my life within it never ends either. After every star dies, it will be reborn, and with it, life will be reborn too, and so will I. And in the same way that I will be reborn, I will also find a way to come here again. Even though their scientific explanation reminded me uncomfortably of a cult, I still felt that everything they said was true, and I believed it with my whole heart. I was instructed to prepare to meet myself, and then I saw myself and even felt like me. Like it was literally me. Like two people who were impossibly the same person standing there and looking at each other. Strangely enough, this other version of me was a woman, which left me more irritated than I cared to admit. The monks noticed, of course. They seemed to take it as proof that I thought myself smarter than them again, and that was the last time I saw them. After an oddly healthy portion of small talk with the future and other dimension female me, apologies if this is too forward for some people, we found ourselves drawn into an intense, almost primal intimacy. As if that alone weren't strange enough, a crowd began to gather around us, or around me. They seemed to be trying to tell me that what we were doing was forbidden here, that this was not the place for it, that such things belonged only to wherever I had come from. Because reproduction only made sense in realms where beings could actually originate, and in that place nobody was born. The words arrived all at once, and yet I understood every single one of them. I was frozen in place, as like hours were passing without time moving at all. The situation itself had taken on a nightmarish, almost ritual quality, while my reproductive organs were conveniently placed in the mouth of a future version of myself. Then it felt as though the overseer of that place had arrived. He felt the same as the other me, which made me wonder whether he was a past version or a more far distant future version of myself. He seemed to know everything, or perhaps to be everything. I'm deliberately not calling him God, because that would mean calling another version of myself God, and this story is already narcissistic enough as it is. Without any clear gesture, without any warning, he made us switch places. Or perhaps I was transferred into the other me. And like, bro, why is my meat so long? Why did the producers keep it so realistic? That thing was down my stomach. But the meat size wasn't the only realistic thing. The feeling of it too, like, man, I wanted to cry. What the hell? Why am I getting violated here? There were two things I got out of that. Firstly, all the contemplations, like thinking why Anakin Skywalker looked so cute, and if I was gay by thinking that, vanished. I'm now sure that I'm definitely not gay, and I think this is the only time that a man became straighter after globbering on a lollipop, even though it was technically mine. The second thing is that the thought of pruning and corking it feels really weird now, and I haven't done it since. Luckily, women are not as disgusted by me as I am, so I don't have a problem in that regard. But yeah, lying on that couch thinking what the hell just happened, my buddy shortly made sure I was okay. After that, he simply specified that before proceeding with his turn, he needed to go to the restroom due to some itching between his cheeks. And it was precisely because of this overwhelming déjà vu that I was able to recall so much of this experience. Everything except the final part. That was engraved into my lobes regardless.